All right, today we're talking about chemical reactions, and a chemical reaction is kind of the grown-up name for a chemical change. So instead of referring to it as a chemical change like you did in elementary school, now we're going to call it a chemical reaction. Just remember that a chemical reaction is the same thing as a chemical change. It is when the bonds between molecules are going to react with each other. They're going to break apart and regroup to form a new substance. So you can see here in the picture, the H2 and the O2 are breaking apart. They're regrouping to form H2O, which is water. All right, there's three ways that you can describe a chemical reaction. You can just describe it in a sentence. You can say copper reacts with chlorine to form copper chloride. You can just describe what's happening in the chemical reaction. Two, you can write a word equation like copper plus chlorine yields, that's what the little arrow means, yields copper chloride. So this is just saying what things are reacting, what things are being produced. Or you can do the chemical equation, which is what we're going to be working on today. And the chemical equation is going to use the chemical symbols, the chemical formulas. It's going to show you exactly what the molecules look like, how many molecules there are, how many atoms of the different elements are in particular molecules. So it gives more information about what's happening during the chemical reaction. All right, so the chemical equation. The chemical equation is just a written way to represent and show what's exactly happening during the chemical reaction. It has two parts that you need to know. You need to know the reactants and you need to know the products. So the reactants are here in red, and the reactants are going to be the things that you start with, the things that are going together and reacting with each other. That's why they're called the reactants. And then here in blue are the products, and the products are the things you end up with, the things that get produced. And the reactants are going to go on the left side of the little arrow. The products are going to go on the right side of the little arrow. And the arrow reads is gives, or you can say produces, or you can say yields. So here we're saying that the reactants react together to yield, react to yield the products. Copper and chlorine react together to yield copper chloride. All right. Now here is an important chemical reaction of photosynthesis, and so I'm just going to use this for my example. We'll be talking about photosynthesis more later in the year, but I want to review about subscripts, about coefficients, chemical formulas, chemical symbols, because you're going to have to remember that stuff from what we learned earlier in to be able to understand the chemical reactions, the chemical equations. Okay, so first of all, here's our word equation. In photosynthesis, carbon dioxide and water are going to react to yield glucose and oxygen. But here's our actual chemical equation. So it's showing you what the formulas are for those different compounds and how many molecules of those different compounds are reacting together. So remember, first of all, that the subscript is the little small number right here to the right of the symbol. It's going to tell you how many atoms of that particular element are in the molecule. So this here is carbon dioxide. This shows you that carbon dioxide has one carbon atom because there's no number after the C. Remember, if there's only one, we don't put a number. And there's two oxygen atoms. Okay. The coefficient, we kind of barely touched on the coefficient earlier, but the coefficient is going to be this big number in the front. And the big number in the front, the coefficient, tells you how many of those molecules are reacting during the chemical reaction. So this is telling us that we have 6 carbon dioxide molecules, and they are reacting with 6 water molecules. And a water molecule has 2 hydrogen and 1 oxygen. When they break apart and regroup to make new substances, they're going to make glucose, which contains 6 carbon, 12 hydrogen, and 6 oxygen. And they're also going to give off 6 molecules of oxygen, 6 O2. So 6 little O2s are going to be released. Now, one thing to remember is that I know that the C and the O don't go together because the O is capitalized. If this went together as one symbol for one element, the O would be lowercase. So this lady loved the photosynthesis equation so much, she had it tattooed on her back. Yeah. All right. Here is an example. I'm going to ask you to do this here in just a minute, but here's an example showing you a chemical reaction. So we have 2 H2s reacting with oxygen, 1 O2 molecule, to yield 2 water molecules, H2O. So here's our chemical formula, or chemical equation, and then here is a drawing to represent that. So this one here I kind of liked a little bit better because it gives you the actual symbols on the different kinds of atoms. So here our reactants are going to be H2 and O2. Those are the things that are reacting. What gets produced, our product, is H2O. All right. So now it's your turn. Go ahead and, using this chemical equation above in your notes, you're going to write down the chemical equation. I want you to list the reactants. I want you to list the products. And then I want you to draw the molecules before and after the chemical equation. So draw out the molecules, how they would be arranged to start with, and then draw the little arrow, and then draw what the molecules would look like after the chemical reaction. And then answer this question. Look at the number 4. Look at the before and the after, and compare what number and the kind of atoms do you have in your reactants, and what number and kind of atoms do you have in your products. So those 4 things I want you to do at the bottom of your notes. And then if you're a science rock star, see if you can write out the sentence and the word equation for this reaction. If you don't know what these compounds are, you might have to use the internet to help you out, but see if you can do that.